Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and last night the Mets opened up a three-game set in Washington, D.C., taking it to the Nationals, winning a game that they should have won in a fashion they should have won it. It's rare when things happen the way they're supposed to for the Mets, but I want to talk about the game, both offensively and the pitching performance of Noah Syndergaard last night. After the Mets put up a 4-spot in the top of the first, my immediate thought was, okay, Noah, time to go to work. Don't let the Nationals get immediately right back into this game. And I was really afraid that's what was going to happen, and that's sort of been Syndergaard's track record over the last couple of, let's just say months, I guess, going back to last season even. He has not been able to close the door and to step on the proverbial throat, if you will, of the competition. And last night was very different. Last night Syndergaard did exactly what you would expect an ace to do when handed a 4-0 lead in the first inning. He shut the other team down to the tune of 5 no-hit innings with some good defense behind him. The Mets played some really solid defense behind him last night. Just a solid game. I mean, the Nationals are reeling, and the worst possible thing that could have happened would have been for the Mets to have sort of laid down and let the Nationals use this series with the Mets to spark themselves. And look, the series isn't over. I mean, the Mets play tonight, and it's going to be a tall task with Wilmer Font on the mound for the Mets against Patrick Corbin for the Nationals. But still, the Mets can still put themselves in position to take 2 games out of 3, if not all 3, because hell, who knows what's going to happen tonight against Corbin. But hats off to Noah Syndergaard, who pitched really well last night, managed his pitches well, kept his pitch count down. It's why he was able to go 8. I think had it not been a save situation and had Syndergaard's spot not been due up in the top half of the 9th inning, I think Syndergaard would have had a chance to finish the game last night. But wasn't to be, and instead Dom Smith got a pinch hit and drove a deep home run to center field. So 6-2 victory for the Mets. The offensive star of the game for the Mets was Wilson Ramos, who had a good at-bat in the very first top half of the first inning, and got himself a good pitch to hit and drove it and pulled it, actually, which was sort of surprising. He's been so deadlocked on going the other way, which isn't the worst thing, but it is when it sacrifices your ability to pull the ball and pull the ball with authority. And that's been the problem with Wilson Ramos. He's just not been able to get any kind of power behind his hits. The hits he's been getting have all been singles, and they've been ground ball singles and little bleeders. So it was nice to see him pull the ball last night, drive the ball to left field, clear the fence, and give the Mets an early 4-0 lead, really putting the Nats in a position where they really had no chance to get back into that game. Other than Ramos, the offense was mostly stifled last night. Jeremy Hellickson pitched a good game for the Nationals, again outside of that first inning. A bunch of quick innings in the game, which was odd for Syndergaard because we're used to seeing him battle so much and run up high pitch counts and long at-bats. But a lot of 4, 6, 8 pitch innings in the game last night for both Syndergaard and Hellickson. So that was good. It was good to see that and have a game be over early for a change, as opposed to dragging on late. I do want to say a couple of things about umpires who have not had a great season this year. And of course I'm generalizing, it's only a handful of them, but last night the home plate umpire was, what's the word for it? Oh yeah, awful. His strike zone was so inconsistent. I legitimately felt for Hellickson last night because he was getting squeezed like crazy. And Syndergaard was too, to a lesser extent, but I mean, Hellickson was getting completely squeezed. And then in the 9th inning, with Lugo on the mound, the umpire made a couple of really stretched out strike zone type calls, which was fine for the Mets. But if I'm the Nationals, I'm pissed about that. And it's just this. It's what I've always said about umpires. Like, home plate umpires have to be consistent. Doesn't matter if their zone is big or small, as long as they're consistent throughout the game. That's all that's important. This guy was not last night. I think his last name was Nelson. I don't know, but whatever. He was bad. First base umpire also bad. And the umpires in Chelsea also bad. So first inning, really the thing that was the turning point of the game was the non-double play that was not turned by the Nationals, that allowed Robinson Cano to get on base, that allowed that inning to continue, that allowed Wilson Ramos to get up to bat and hit that grand slam in the first inning. That was a call that was overturned. That was a tough call for the umpire at first base because of where new first baseman Gerardo Parra was positioned, where his glove was, and how the ball sort of trickled out of his glove. I can't really fault the umpire on that one. A play like that is exactly why replay is important, because that's not one of those bang plays that really umpire discretion sort of thing, split second, fraction of an inch, whatever. This is more of just an unfortunate positioning of the umpire and where the play unfolded. And in the past, without replay, that would have gone, that play would have continued, would have been an out. I mean, it would have been a double play without replay. So there's a +1 for replay. But a couple of innings later, with Cano running down the base again, the Nationals relief pitcher, I can't think of his name, fielded or caught a return throw from the first baseman and completely whiffed on the base. I mean, he did not touch first base in any capacity. He put his foot near it or around it, but couldn't seem to tap it. The replay clearly showed that, and they still called him out. They still called Cano out. And that was nuts to me. Like, that, it's one of those things that, like, replay just can't get stuff like that wrong, because these are the sorts of plays that replay was there to prevent. I don't like replay when it comes down to, like, the Chase Utley rule sort of thing, where, the second baseman has to bail out on a double play, and he's a fraction of a second away from correctly catching the ball with his foot on the base. I just don't like that. That's not the intent of replay. Those neighborhood type plays were always there for not to get an edge, not to cheat, but to protect players. And that's different from the sort of stuff that happens at first base a lot, where balls drop, where a foot touches the base sooner or later, a pitcher completely misses the base. Like, those are the sorts of things that replay is supposed to be able to catch and prevent and correct. And last night it did fix one of them, but it really blew on the other one, and that's just unacceptable to me. So I'm not a fan of replay to begin with, and when they get shit wrong, it makes it even more aggravating. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Glad the Mets got the first victory under their belts. They are now returned to 500. Phillies lost last night. Braves lost last night. So the Mets put themselves in a position to keep winning, make up ground in the division, and return to the promised land of at least being above 500, which the Mets will look to do tonight. Again, Wilmer Font on the mound for the Mets, facing off against Patrick, don't call me Baron, Corbin. So that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. And as always, let's go Mets.